What's up, Madridistas? This episode, you can ask me, Kiyan Sobhani, anything you want, anything your heart desires. Drop the question into the chat right now if you're live on YouTube, and I'll address as many as humanly possible. Also, the Managing Madrid Podcast is coming to Toronto. Myself, Kiyan Sobhani, joined by the great Leah Ravel and also the great Mehdi Hassan. We're doing an entire weekend in November, the November 14th weekend, on the Friday and the Sunday. We got pickup footy and we're doing a podcast. And most importantly, we are creating a hub for diehard Madridistas in Toronto to come together in a room to meet like-minded Madridistas in your city, make friendships, hang out, talk chabby ball, talk about our love for Real Madrid. You guys can win some prizes. It's going to be a hell of a time. If you'd like to attend that weekend in Toronto, just in a couple weeks here, I've dropped the link to RSVP in the comments and in the show notes, excuse me. And without further ado, Q&A with your boy Kiyan Sobhani coming right up.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First-rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
Guys, if you saw the thumbnail for this video, it says ask me anything. You can literally ask me anything you want in the chat right now. And creativity is welcome. I can only talk so much about like 4-4-2, 4-3-3, a target in the box. Is Real Madrid ready against elite teams? What else is the common one? Those are like some of the big ones, I guess, that I'm just tired of talking about. Love me some history. I also would welcome disagreements. I would love for anyone who disagrees with me about a subject to actually bring it up with me here in the chat. I would love to address it because one of two things will happen. One is that either I'll convince you of my side of the argument and you'll be like, yeah, you're right. Or the other thing is that you're probably just misinterpreting something I said. And there's no third outcome because I'm never wrong about anything. So feel free to call me out anything you want, and I would love to address it. Before we get to questions, I did want to share some thoughts, more like further reflections from last night, because you know, like the day after a big game, you just start thinking about a lot of stuff. If you care deeply about this club anyway, if you're crazy enough to basically revolve your entire life around 11 grown men kicking a ball on a piece of grass, which is myself and probably everybody here. Last night, and those of you guys who joined our post-game podcast, all the members who joined us last night, thank you so much. I will try my best not to repeat anything I said last night and just kind of bring a different perspective. Last night was more about what went wrong, why it went wrong, the plan or lack thereof, and how and why Real Madrid lost to a better team, the better team on the night. I don't want to say a better team necessarily because I think that the jury is still out about, like, let's see how the seasons unfold for both of these teams, where both of them will be respectively by the end of the season. But certainly the better team last night, Real Madrid, were outplayed and they lost to the better team on the night. There's that aspect of it too, right? There's that aspect that, you know, everything went wrong. Players were bad. Xabi got it wrong. And Liverpool were awesome. And Courtois went into God mode to prevent it from being worse. That happened. And we analyzed why that happened. But I think there's the recognition of, okay, Real Madrid lost and it was bad. It was a bad night in the Champions League. And by the way, my boy Raul was there. You can see on my t-shirt, this is my most iconic favorite freeze, probably like freeze frame in Real Madrid history. I was a kid when this happened, and I started worshiping this man after he silenced the Camp Nou. Raul was there, but I just wanted to point out the T-shirt I'm wearing. There's the recognition of what happened last night, and you can rightfully call it a bad performance and a worrying performance and things that you need to address and improve. But then there's like some absolutely wild, out to lunch lunacy. Some of these takes are out of control, out of control. And I'm not talking about like people who know what they're talking about. I'm not talking about like Gareth Bale and Thierry Henry talking about like the number 9 issue, which is a whole subject on its own, because I'd like to interject actually for a second to address that. I do believe there are situations where Real Madrid could use a bigger presence in the box. I'm completely shocked that our best player from the Club World Cup, Gonzalo Garcia, has completely vanished from the face of the planet. I did not see that coming. But I also want to point out that this is not Mbappe's fault. Mbappe is actually the best player in the world. He has tendencies naturally that he gravitates towards, which is link-up play, playing outside the box, and getting in on the cutbacks in the box as well. But it's not his fault that he is not Erling Haaland. It's not his fault that he's not Joselu. He's the best player in the world, but this is the profile he is, and he has natural tendencies to play the way he does. That's not his fault. But there needs to be recognition that there are times, and it's not every game. There are games where you don't need the target in the box, but there are games where you clearly do, or even like game states or certain situations where you clearly do. And in those situations, is there a recognition? Because last night when I saw Rodrigo come off the bench and Brahim, and we only used 3 subs, and Gonzalo Garcia was on the bench, like I just those things that are just strange to me, right? Anyways, I went on a tangent. What I actually wanted to say was this. There were some wild takes about Xabi out. Real Madrid will not win the Champions League. This team is doomed. Guys, can I just remind you of something? Growth is not linear. Real Madrid have lost 2 games this season. Both of them were really bad performances. I get that. But growth is not linear. It's going to go like this. If you're on YouTube, growth is not like this. Growth is like this. Two steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have painful moments. You're going to have learning opportunities. Now, maybe Real Madrid will be eliminated from all competitions, and it's going to be a disastrous season, and everyone can say, I told you so, and then congratulations. You rooting against your own team, it worked for you this time. Congratulations, Madridista. But I'm also here to say that every single title-winning run we've ever had games like that, including in the three-peat. This is a random example, but you remember, I think it was 2018, I want to say, where Mauricio Pochettino and Tottenham played us off the park 3-0 in London. And it was as if like prime Brazil was playing against Alcorcon. It was that big of a gap. And everyone said similar things. And this is a cycle that continues and continues. But I'm here to just point out, like, just calm down, pump the brakes, analyze what went wrong, and maybe it'll keep going wrong, or maybe it'll get better. I don't know. But to say, like, to just, like, Xabi needs to go, and, like, the lack of patience. And I blame TikTok. I blame TikTok, and I blame the government, and I blame the Illuminati for destroying our attention spans and making us so miserable. It's all their fault. It's not even your fault. Delete TikTok off your phones. All right, questions. Okay, so some of these I've actually already addressed, and I don't necessarily want to get back into it. Yeah, Fleurs says, after yesterday, I'm already worried about Rayo away. The mentality of this team is just missing. Xabi post-game comments annoyed me. No fight. Those are fair. I think Xabi saying that it was an even game was nonsense. That was not true. Liverpool were just a better team. I do think there is some merit in what he said, in that he said the first half was pretty even. If you look at the blocks of the game, it goes first 5 minutes, Liverpool aggressive press. After about 5 minutes, we settled, we controlled possession a little bit. Then after about 30 minutes, Liverpool just put their foot on the pedal. And then in the second half, there was Liverpool starting the second half strong. We were committing unnecessary fouls, as Courtois said after the game. Our set piece defending was terrible. It was just bound that we would eventually concede because Courtois can't save everything. And then, kind of to close the game, we had spells of possession. Like, I think by the end of it was 60% that went nowhere. It was a useless 60% where we just couldn't break lines. And when we did kind of get through, we had no one there on the end of anything. But the Rayo game specifically, I wanted to comment on, because Rayo actually, when we were looking at the schedule from the beginning, like starting from Getafe, Juve, Barca, Liverpool, Valencia, Rayo, I looked at Rayo as like, that's tough and more consequential than Liverpool, because you can lose to Liverpool and still qualify in the Champions League knockouts. There's no question about that. We know that. This Champions League group stage format is very forgiving. But Rayo away is consequential because that's not an easy place to play for either us or Barca. They absolutely cooked Barca earlier this season. And that stadium is, it's raucous. Are Rayo better than Real Madrid? No. Is it a game that Real Madrid should win? Yes. But I'm just looking at it as a banana peel. I would like the team to come out and just put their foot on the necks of Rayo Vallecano to prove a point. But I agree with you in that actually is a difficult game. Sosa87 says, Kiyan, your channel together with Global Madridista are the only Madrid channels I follow seriously. I asked Global Madridista, and who would love to do a collab with you in the future? He likes your channel. I love Miguel. Miguel and I have just bad timing. Like, we've been trying to coordinate. He goes away or I'm traveling, and it's just a vicious cycle. So one day, I promise, Miguel and I will have a chat. Maybe in person. Sosa also says, I think it's a work in progress. I will be worried if this happens in April. Exactly. Having said that, again, I don't want it to seem like I was totally putting a blanket over Real Madrid's problems. That's not what I meant to do either. I'm not pretending everything is fine. All I'm saying really is that it's kind of too early to tell. And again, growth is not linear, and there's still a lot of football left before the end of the season. There's still a lot of time to improve, and we have to give Xabi the benefit of the doubt in this situation. But if it happens in April, May, June, of course, I mean, the alarm bells are ringing strong at that point. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Hey, Kiyan, how long do you think it will take Perez to make the right decision and get rid of Xabi? Bring back Zizou. I don't know, man, but I support you to go outside Florentino's office and put up a sign and start a protest. I support you, bro. Anthony says, where do you stand on the Courtois greatest ever Real Madrid keeper debate? If he hasn't overtaken San Iker, what does he need to do to be considered the best ever? Courtois versus Casillas is kind of, to me, no longer a clear-cut Casillas is better. I have Casillas number one in my rankings, in part because, and older fans will remember this. Newer fans will see the older version of Casillas like after 2010 and be like, this guy sucks. And he was not the same after 2010. But from like 2000 to 2010, that 1 decade block where Real Madrid's defense was shambolic. This was, before Ramos became Ramos, and Ramos joined like in the later part of the decade. I would say Pepe and a couple years of Hierro at the turn of the century were our only really strong defenders. That entire era, Cannavaro in his second year was pretty solid. Everyone else was pretty much a disaster. And not only that, the team structure was terrible. So Casillas was just getting bombarded with shots. For about a decade, he literally single-handedly kept us in games at times. There was one season I remember where it was Ronaldo Nazario scoring and Casillas on the other end stopping shots. That was our entire team and nothing in between. Casillas, to me, is still the GOAT. Having said that, I'm at a stage now where if someone said Courtois was better, I actually would not argue against it. To me, they both sit at the same table as the two greatest goalkeepers in Real Madrid history, and in both situations at their peak. If you want a goalkeeper in a Champions League final to be heroic for you, Casillas has done that for us. Courtois has done that for us. And you can rely on both of them at their peaks. I will say, I think Courtois, as an overall goalkeeper, is more complete because they both have incredible reflexes and their reaction to saves is second to none. But Courtois is stronger dealing with crosses than in the air, obviously. So I think Courtois has an edge, actually. With all that being said, I think given the fact that Courtois' career is not over yet, he still has great moments ahead of him. Courtois, if he hasn't already, will surpass Casillas, I think, is what I think is the way I look at it anyway. Um, Ertug, uh, Ertugrul Gulmez 35 says, I don't understand what the people talking about Goulet when all the team let us down. People only focusing on Goulet. I don't get it. I mean, yeah, there's no one person to blame. Goulet had some nice touches, but he was just overwhelmed by Liverpool's entire midfield battle, winning that. Wirtz was fantastic. Gravenberg, McAllister, these guys. I think this and the Atletico game. I think the two of the many concerning things that came out of those two games was that those were the only two games this season where Real Madrid were positionally inferior to their opponent, meaning they weren't able to implement their press. They were not in position to escape the press, and they were late to every 50-50 loose ball. They were out of ideas because of all those three things happening. And Xabi Ball generally, positionally, they've been superior to all their opponents apart from those two. And that's where you talk about the elite. And what the ceiling of this team is, I think we can almost all agree that the floor is higher, but the ceiling is where the concern is. And to blame it all on Goulet obviously is ridiculous. Tommy Jones 22189 says, we are so cooked, Kiyan, season already over. Oh, this comment definitely came before my monologue at the beginning. I'm sure of it. Christian says, you mentioned there's been growth, but where's the growth in Europe? In all the Champions League matches this season, performances are the same of last season, conceding numerous chances against Juve, Olympique, Marseille, and Liverpool. This goes back to my comment about I think the team's floor is higher and the team's ceiling is unknown at this point, but concerning. Mind you, the other thing to point out, Christian, is that the sample size is extremely small for big games in the Xabi Alonso era. It's very small. And if you're talking about improvements, well, we all thought that it's impossible for Mbappe to press and work hard defensively. Lucho couldn't do it. Ancelotti couldn't do it. Xabi came in and got Mbappe running like a madman, and his defensive numbers are through the roof. The team's breast, did I just say breast? Man, I don't know where my brain is right now. The team's press is way better than it was last season and possibly in club history. There are clear improvements in our ball progression, in our playmaking, and I think Vinny is playing better this season than he was last season, although like it's kind of a mixed bag for him. There are clear things that have improved. Our defense has improved. This goes back to a point I made a couple days ago where Courtois has barely been called into action this season, apart from those two games, which was not the case against any team last season. Even against a team like Valencia last season, our defense was getting ripped apart. So there are clearly things that have improved. Then that's where the growth comes from. And then the rest of that, you just kind of have to be patient and see what Xabi Alonso can improve in these bad losses that we're seeing. Still, again, only 2 losses. So a couple points here from Ago Pinat69, our YouTube member, who says, I honestly think the number 9 issue is exaggerated. Checkmate 7345 says, I'd prefer to see Jude play as a false 9, Mbappe on the right, Vinny on the left, Arda in the 10, with Tchouameni and Valverde in CM roles. The number 9 thing is not exaggerated in my opinion, but this is exactly what it is, guys. It doesn't apply to every game and every situation, as I said earlier. There are just moments where the team needs someone to crash the box. Jude obviously can do it. Jude, again, is doing everything, by the way. You just need the profile in the squad, which you do have, and you need to utilize him at moments. And that goes back to the point of, like, how can you just watch the team have a bunch of creators and ball circulation and mindless possession from 3-4 wingers on the field at the same time, plus Jude, plus Arda, just circulating the ball, looking for someone to play the final ball to, and that person doesn't exist. There are just certain situations where that really, really is apparent. This is not a hot take. You don't believe me? Like, just go listen to the Gareth Bale Thierry Henry conversation from last night. It's not exaggerated. It's just that there are just certain moments where we absolutely need that profile, and we need to use the profile. So that's my take on it. Tommy Jones says Goulet shrinks massively in big games, Kiyan. Yeah, the sample size is how big now? He was our best player against Atletico. He was very good against Barca, apart from that mistake, and he was quiet against Liverpool. I think you guys run away with narratives unnecessarily for just because to, like, say I told you so. 244. Okay, these comments are about 15 minutes old. Crystal says we can find all the excuses in the world tactically and say we need to be patient, but this team doesn't have what it takes. Comparing to the teams we used to have, the spirit is not there. I would say that it's a fair analysis to point all of those things out, Crystal, in these 2 games. But I am saying that we still need to give the team the benefit of the doubt, because these losses, Crystal, that you're complaining about happen every year. Every year, no exception. No exception. Apart from maybe 16, 17, I think that was pretty damn good. 11, 12 in La Liga was amazing, but you get my point. All right, a lot of questions about formations again, so I'm going to skip those. Fleur pointing out we haven't won away at Rio since 2022. There you go. Checkmate says 2 seasons ago, I begged for Harry Kane when Benzema left us. You guys laughed or shouted it down. We got Joselu, then he left. Not true. This is something you completely made up. I said we should sign Harry Kane. Every member of the Managing Madrid staff, from what I remember, agree with that. So checkmate, you just made that up. Congratulations. Serral says, why do you think Vinny is underperforming and simply not Vinny anymore? Is it form or is it because of Xabi's system? For what it's worth, I think Vinny's been better this season. There are games where we've seen Vinny back. I think what happened last night, because I know that's fresh in everybody's minds, that last night felt very much like last season and the season before, but specifically last season, where it's like the plan is get the ball to Vinicius and let him cook. And that doesn't work all the time. It works when you have players in the box commanding gravity who can capitalize on what he's cooking up. But the problem last night was that, first of all, that didn't exist. Second of all, Bradley just won that duel. And even if there were times where Vinny maybe got past him, it wasn't just Bradley. It was 2 or 3 players that Liverpool could send on the wing because they knew there's no one else punishing them in a dangerous zone. So, for what it's worth, I think Vinny's been better this season. Last night, that's my explanation. Uh, Someone spamming the chat. Okay, gotta skip past those. Some blame for Housen. We spoke about this pretty extensively last night, that Housen was pretty shocking. And I think I actually pointed out some of this before the Atletico game. And then there were games where he was much better. And then there were games that were just not even the quote unquote big games where he struggled on the ball. There's a couple things. He has an insistence on verticality, which means that he is oftentimes irrationally confident hitting a really, really, really difficult, risky pass through the lines, even when there's no chance that he's going to pull it off. And we've conceded multiple transition attacks, both last night and throughout this season, when those passes aren't pulled off. Been a little bit soft on the ball. I think he's a little bit too chill at times, and that needs to improve. I'm going to chalk it up to young player finding his feet, growing pains, hopefully with more experience, composure, maturity, that he can improve on that aspect of his game. Hot take: this team won't win any Champions Leagues in the next 5 to 10 years because the magic was Ronaldo, Ramos, Benzema, and co, and every one of them are gone. You know what's so funny about this comment? People said the same thing about Ramos, Ronaldo, and Benzema in 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. 4 years they said that until that team finally won. When Ronaldo left, they said the team would never win the Champions League for the next 5-10 years. And you know what Benzema did? He went to another level. Ramos left, the team won another one. So just remember that you are not actually a prophet. But it's a hot take. So I give you credit for stating that it's a hot take. But don't bring Ramos and Ronaldo and Benz into this, because people said the same thing about those guys before they finally won. So this is an interesting comment, because I feel the same way. Shravan says, I felt like I was watching a Carlo team. Can you tell me why you think Xabi isn't doing the system from the preseason? Both the Atletico game and Liverpool game, I felt like, oh, this is just the same shit we saw last season. Where's the improvement? And I am also confused. I remember, I was speaking to Mehdi about this before the Clasico in Madrid. I said, I hope that Xabi doesn't do like the overthinking thing in the big games, because he deviated from the 4-3 or the 4-4-2 from the Club World Cup against PSG when Mbappe came back, and then he deviated away from the 4-3-3 against Atletico when Bellingham came back. And then he did the 4-4-2 against Clasico. I was like, oh, then it worked. Like, it was awesome. But then it didn't work against Liverpool. I mean, part of that is also, I think, Arne Slot just knew, like, the 4-4-2 was coming again because they used it in the Clasico and it worked. And I think they planned for that. I think the way they just positioned themselves Wirtz, he was on the left wing on paper, but really was more of a roaming 10, and he was cutting inside, giving Robertson the wing. And the combination of Robertson pushing up there, I think, and how aggressive that Wirtz pressed on that side, because off the ball, on defense, Wirtz was a left winger, but then on the ball, he would move to a roaming positions. And then, but on defense, when he was onto the left, him and Robertson really, really stifled Camavinga on that side and pinned them. And combination of that and, Bradley just being really intelligent, knowing when to step or when to stay back and let Salah just basically take the right wing. They seemed like they were prepared for that 4-4-2. Now, mind you, it's not that easy to say, like, it should have been this or that, because sometimes we only know these things in hindsight. I said this last night. Obviously, the plan wasn't to not press Liverpool or to not pressure them or to be completely lost trying to escape pressure. And then, of course, the Anfield atmosphere fed into that, right? They were emotionally charged too. I also think that's a factor. I mean, the two games we lost were away from home in hostile atmospheres to very high intensity teams. That's actually what I would be most worried about. Is like away from home, high intensity. We need to be mentally stronger and we need to be better in those situations. Because I think if you played Liverpool at home, probably might have been a different story. But it's worth noting that high intensity away from home has not been a good combination. But I have the same question here that you're asking in the super chat. Ultimately, after all that, like, is there maybe an overthinking in the big games? I don't know, but I do agree with you that it did felt like watching last season. By the way, can we give some flowers? Are we allowed to do that? I know last night was a night to forget, but Courtois obviously was unbelievable. I thought Fede was strong. Militao was fantastic. He basically had a center back partner who was off the rails and was left on an island because of that, but he dealt with most of his assignments really well. Carreras was solid for about 3/4 of the game, I would say. Jude was really involved in escape, probably the only reliable ball progressor that the team had, and was trying to get into these good zones. I'd say like those are like the 3-4 players that I think work their ass off, and they can. No one escapes criticism, full criticism, apart from Thibaut Courtois, I think. But I think there were like 3 or 4 players that played well. Arearite says Gonzalo's performance in the Club World Cup is exaggerated. I don't think he is a starting material. Even Endrick should go. Unpopular opinion, I know. First of all, I think Gonzalo Garcia was our best player in the Club World Cup. I don't think that part was exaggerated. I think it wasn't just that he was getting in on the ends of balls. He was controlling these the football incredibly, like with the first touch through traffic, his link up, his hold up, his defense, his pressing. He was doing everything. And also, no one is asking him to start every game. But all we're just saying is that there are situations, there are game states that require his presence to unlock the game. All right. Alex Steiberg, super chat. Tchouaméni overrated? Question mark. Clunky passing, and we need more creativity in midfield. Swap for Fede with Jude and Goulet also in midfield. Do we need Tchouaméni? This to me falls in the basket of reactionary takes because Tchouaméni has been unbelievable for the entire calendar year. He's had a fantastic season. He's a pillar of Xavi ball. He has been great protecting zone 14. His ball distribution has largely been reliable. He's been important attacking set pieces. And he struggled last night dealing with Liverpool's pressure, in part because there were no outlets that he could pick out. And he just had a lot to deal with. Was he good last night? No. But I think this falls into the category of kind of the reactionary takes that come out of a game like that. Did I see the latest rumors about Upamecano and Madrid having verbal agreement? I saw something. I didn't see who reported it. You're asking me if I choose between Upamecano or Konate. I would definitely choose Konate. But I would also say Lucas is pretty convinced that Rudiger is not going to renew next season. And Alaba's obviously not renewing. So you're going to have 2 defenders off the books, which leaves you, for now, with Militao, Asensio, and Housen. I think regardless of if you choose to sign Upamecano or Konate or whoever, I would love to see Jean Martinez promoted. He is someone I rate extremely highly coming out of Castilla. I'd love to see him get more reps. There's no rush with him, but I'd like to see him get more reps. This is a reminder. I think I pretty much forgot saying this in 80% of the videos I do on YouTube. La Luna says, like the video, guys. It's free. It's literally the lowest hanging fruit. If you guys like the channel, if you're here and you hate the channel, you don't. That's not true. You like the channel. You wouldn't be here if you didn't love it, even if it's secretly. Hit like, subscribe. It helps the channel and it takes you zero effort. Thanks for the reminder. Which, by the way, reminds me something that happened last night that was so shocking. Forget about, Bradley versus Vinicius. Mbappe having a shocker. Courtois going into God mode. Trent getting thrown into the deep end at his former home ground in a hostile environment. The most shocking thing out of all of that, do you know what it is? You won't believe it. If you guys head on over to moji-mates.com, not only can you pick up some incredible Real Madrid swag, but you can get 40% off. When was the last time you went anywhere and something was 40% off? Go to moji-mates.com, moji-mates.com. Use code MM40OFF. Every Managing Madrid Podcast listener gets 40% off. That's only running for a couple more days. They just dropped the Raul collection. Oh my God. RIP my wallet. It's over. They got Raul. This is the 2001 season, I think. The one with no sponsor with the cool letters, but they got the black away Tekka one. They got the one from the 90s, the purple. Guys, what are you doing? What am I doing? Why am I even doing a podcast and not just shopping right now? Go to moji-mates.com. Use code MM40OFF. All right, let's get back to some super chats. I got to wrap it up in about 20 minutes because I got a meeting. More Konate Upamecano stuff. Oh, okay. Super chat. There's actually way more super. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to focus on super chats right now because there's more than I thought. So, Alahan Aushef says, it feels as if Xabi not preparing properly for the big games. It does not feel as a lack of personnel. Using the same starting 11 as against Barca was lazy, in my opinion. Big teams isolate Arda, and we found zero solutions. Yep. But again, I think part of this, Alahan, is in hindsight. Most people were delighted that we saw the same 11 against Clasico because it worked. So, we complain about if it's broke, why fix it? Sorry, if it's not broke, why fix it? That's basically what we did. Like, we took a blueprint against a team that's in some ways similar in playing style, which is a high pressing team. And we tried to implement that again. I also just want to point out this, though, and maybe this is obvious, and maybe I think most of you guys actually even realize this. I don't consider Barca an elite team this season. I think they have dropped off significantly since last season. And I think that is the case even when Rafinha comes back. They're just not as good. Individually, they've dropped off. Collectively, the scouting report is out. The main difference also with Hansi Flick and some of these other elite managers, Hansi Flick is the least versatile manager of the elite managers in that he only has plan A. Look at what Slot was saying last night after the game. Slot said, we wanted to do a high press and a low block. We knew when to press and we knew when to go into the low block because we did not want to have Vinicius and Mbappe to have space. And it worked. Vinny and Mbappe didn't have a shot on target. And it wasn't just Van Dijk and Konate. It was they had preventative measures from Real Madrid even getting into those dangerous zones. So I don't know if I don't think Barca's in the elite team, and in the elite teams, I don't. And I said this before. I think which game was it? I guess it was after the Atletico loss, and I have pretty much same stance now, is that until proven otherwise, Real Madrid are not elite either. So we have, Bayern, PSG. I also think Liverpool are closer to what they were last night than what we've seen the last couple months. Wirtz had his best game. He's going to get going eventually, and maybe he just started to get going. So I think Liverpool probably will stumble into that elite category as well by the end of the season. Um, but it's back to the drawing board, man. And I think he has a lot of learning to be done. And as much as I say we need to be patient with Xabi, and I think overall there's been a lot of improvements and a lot of good stuff that we've seen, we also have to be fair and be critical of his decisions against Atletico and Liverpool. And I don't think, there were similar problems. I don't think we saw improvements in those two games, even though they're two different opponents. Again, it goes back to high intensity away grounds. We're struggling matching that intensity. Xabi literally said before the game, we want to take the game to Liverpool. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Uh, Rocky says, do you think we overrate our players? La Liga quality is poor. Really depends on who. And it depends on who it is that is overrating or underrating them. Social media is basically a war of just different fan bases overhyping their players. And so it really depends on who you ask. I think every fan base overrates their players to a lot of extent, to a big extent. So it really depends on who you ask. Cristiano Mu says Camavinga, Arda, Housen were the three poorest. I would add Vinny and Mbappe to that list. And yeah. I also thought we didn't talk about this today, but I didn't really get the subs last night. I'm sure Lucas probably spoke about it for you guys on Madrid Mornings. Rodrigo coming in made sense in theory because Camavinga is not like a line-breaking dribbler. Rodrigo is. But he comes in without much rhythm, and all of his passes stunk up the place. He was forcing things. He didn't look confident, and maybe it's just a lack of match rhythm. The Trent one was super bizarre to me, but later it comes out like, okay, Fede is injured and there's no other right back. So, okay, like that started to add up a little bit logically that why he came in. Otherwise, I was so surprised that Trent featured in that game. We didn't even use all five subs. We made late subs. We didn't react quick enough. And again, why have Rodrigo and Brahim and basically like four wingers on the field when they have no one to feed it to? I didn't understand it. Adrian says, how does Mbappe manage to get great numbers while making the team overall look worse? They can't even assist him because he fails to sneak into the box. This is a situational thing, obviously. It's not that black and white. Mbappe didn't come and make the team worse. It was a perfect storm of many things happening when he arrived. We had ACL injury after ACL injury last season, and then Mbappe started poor, but then when he got going, Vinny dropped out of form, and we sorely missed Cruz. Ancelotti did not bring Goulier into the team when it was clear we needed a ball progressor. You can't really blame one thing in that situation. And the things that kind of linger into this season, well, we have won every game this season except for two. And the two we didn't win, we already dissected those issues. So you can't just sit here and say it's Mbappe that's making the team look worse. And as I said about the target thing, that's not Mbappe's fault. That's a tendency that he has as a player, that he does not play like he's Erling Haaland. That's not his fault. So we need to recognize that, to either give him someone to play off of, like a Giroud, or put in Gonzalo Garcia and put Mbappe or Vinny on the left. We need to recognize that stuff too. It can't just be all on him. Okay, I'm going to skim through here. Let's see. Okay. I don't know if there's anything that I want to take from what I see that I haven't already spoken about. I don't like repetitive stuff because I think it makes the podcast kind of boring. So I'll do a quick skim. And again, I'm about 20 minutes behind on these comments. So if I see anything, then I will take it. And if not, I'm going to wrap it up. Mm, yeah, I'm done. Honestly, I had a blast though. I had a good time. I really did. 45 minutes strong. Like to do this as often as I can. Thanks for everyone tuning in last night to hear me, Leah, and Jose provide some therapy sessions for you guys after that loss. We'll be back tomorrow. No, what's today? Wednesday? Yeah. So I'll be back Friday. For members, Lucas and I are doing a mailbag. We'll also probably do a Rayo preview in there. And then Sunday, we'll be back live on YouTube after the Rayo game to dissect that. And again, if you're in Toronto, please come out. Love to meet you on November 14th and 16th. The link is in the show notes. The link is in the comments. I will take this because I'm actually kind of excited to talk about this in some way. NMO95 says, "How's your book coming along? Good luck to the managing Madrid. Good luck to the managing Madrid staff. The book is done. The book is done. It's done in that I finished writing it. Now it's in editor's hands. Now we're trying to figure out the logistics and the launch and all that stuff. And once that happens, it's gonna be a big relief. So this will be the most complete Real Madrid book that's ever been written by anyone. And think about like all of the games from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. People who want to know more about Real Madrid history. People that join late. People who don't have time to go and watch games from the 50s, 60s, 70s. I've done that for you. Gone back and watched them all. That's why it took me 7 years to finish it. I've ranked the top 100 players in the book in club history. I have some exclusive interviews in there that I don't want to spoil. And I also will try to do an audiobook version of it. I don't know about that yet because script reading is difficult for me. I need to practice and get better at it because it's hard. So I'm not sure about that yet. But yeah, the heavy lifting is done. Now it's all about promotion, logistics, details, negotiations, blah, 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 some boring stuff. But yeah. Listen, guys, you guys are awesome. Thank you for tuning in. And we will catch you on Friday. Mailbag. Kiyan Sobhani signing off. Peace out.